Hey, it's Karina Reichman, and you are listening to Comes a Time with Oteil Burbridge and Mike Fenoya. If you're digging the podcast, do these guys a favor and review and subscribe. It means a lot. Be sure to follow the pod on social media, YouTube, and if you're joining for bonus episodes and exclusive content, go to patreon.com/comesatimepod and get on the bus. And now, here's Mike and Oteil.
What's up, Comes a Time fans? It's Oteil again. I had the great pleasure to interview the world's strongest man, Mark Henry. You may know him as that or as the world's strongest man from WWE because he's also in the WWE Hall of Fame. I did this one solo because at the time, Mike was doing stuff for his special, which has been out now, and it's crossed 100,000 views. What's up? Oh, by the way. So this one is a solo one, but this intro, it's going to take a while because Mark Henry is still currently the world's strongest man in one of these associations. No one has yet to surpass what he did. But in his freshman year at Silsbee High School, he was already able to squat 600 pounds, which was well over the school record. As an 18-year-old high school senior, Henry was called the world's strongest teenager by the Los Angeles Times and made it into the headlines in early 1990 for winning the National High School Powerlifting Championships and setting teenage lifting world records in the squat at 832 pounds and total 2,033 pounds. By the time he finished high school, he was a three-time Texas State champion with state and national records in all four powerlifting categories: squat, bench press, deadlift, and total. His first year in competitive weightlifting, he broke all three junior American records 12 times and became the United States top super heavyweight. Then, and we're coming into the end here, in 1992, right after that, he was the champion at the Open American. 93 through 97, held all three records in the senior national championship. 93 and 94, he was the champion at the U.S. Olympic Festival. 95 Pan American Games, he won gold, silver, and bronze medals. 95 powerlifting national champion, where he did the first ever 900-pound deadlift. And as I've referenced before, he currently he still holds the WDFPE, which is the World Drug-Free Powerlifting Federation. World records in squat, deadlift, and total. Nobody's broken them since. And he's still the only human, or I guess it says here, the first human at the first Arnold Strongman competition, which was Arnold Schwarzenegger, to ever do multiple reps of Apollon's wheels. You should go check out that video on YouTube. It's pretty fascinating because the crowd is like, it's just all these, just one first after another. This guy is a mutant. He's one of the X-Men. He is the Incredible Hulk. And he could dunk a basketball in high school at like way over 300 pounds. And just like, he's a freak and a really special human and really intelligent, really thoughtful. Kind of reminds me a little bit of that John Amos thing where it's like somebody you definitely do not want to mess with, but he's a gentle soul and spirit and kind. And I was just so thrilled to get to talk to him. I should shout out, he's also in AEW right now and not WWE. And he is just amazing. What a fun time we had talking to him. I know that took a long time, but I'm just setting you up for who you're looking at. Comes a Time. Come check us out on all the platforms. Get all the extra goodies at patreon.com/comesatimepod. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. Like, share, subscribe. We love you. between me and you, Mark, just thank you, because I've had so many great moments with my kids in pro wrestling that I never could have predicted.
Man, it's
You
such
know,
great entertainment. Like just to be able to teach kids good and evil and psychology, like why things happen. And
yeah,
you're gonna run into good people, you're gonna run into bad people, and how to negotiate which is which. You know, sometimes there's a little bump in the road. You know, somebody that you might love, they might turn their back on somebody, and you just go through all these different ranges of emotion um, that you have to either understand it and really truly like to be entertained, because there's a lot of people that um, if that don't even watch movies. I know people that
yeah,
don't read. I was like, did you ever read this book? No, I'm not big on that. You know, but watching wrestling is reading a book, but audio and interactive. So it's pretty easy, especially little kids. They understand it really quick.
yeah. My wife she saw me get into it, and she was like, "What's going on? Like, I don't get it." But when she saw me and my kids watch it together, then she started to get it. And actually, me and my daughter just went. There's a local wrestling promotion here, which I didn't realize, in Boca Raton, Florida, called Boca Raton Championship Wrestling. So I went there just last Sunday with my daughter, and Jimmy Hart, the Mouth of the South, was right there when we walked in. And Brutus Beefcake is the commissioner. So we have fun on that too, like going to it's just down in Meisner Park. It's a smaller promotion, but it's great. She just is wide-eyed. So
Man,
thank you for
I'm
that.
glad y'all have that. I'm glad you have it.
Oh, it's great memories. All right, as I said in the intro, or will say, your list of accomplishments would take 10 minutes at least to go through all of it. But let's start back in the beginning. You're from Silsbee, Texas.
Little
That sounds like
small town.
that sounds small.
It is like right now. There's about 3,300 people, and I was under the impression that there were 3,000 people when I was going to school there, but I was told that wasn't true. That it was more like 2,500. People just said 3,000.
It was even smaller. Do you have like, because I read this, by 10 you were 5'5" and weighed 220. Are
Yeah.
the men in your family like big on one side or the other?
No, on all sides of the equation. Like the funny thing is, I have the Adams side of my family has three people won Super Bowls,
Wow.
and on the Henry side of my family, um, you have Kevin Henry won one with Pittsburgh, um, and of course uh, Derrick Henry and um, um, Chris Henry. Neither one of them won Super Bowls, but they played high level NFL football. And we have my wife's father was the alternate for the '54 Olympic team in boxing, and I was an Olympian. And so, like on all sides of the family, we have greatness in sport. And I mean, there's like Michael Strahan is a relative, is a cousin. So like we have more Super Bowls in our family than the Mannings.
That's amazing. And what about this dude I heard about, Uncle Chud or
Yeah,
Uncle, what's his?
that was my grandmother's favorite cousin. She used to talk about him all the time, like all Bunyan stories. And he never wore a pair of shoes. Um, I don't know how big his feet were, but they didn't make shoes that big. So he wore moccasins and um, thread through lace leather like socks, and
Wow.
he was apparently 6'7", somewhere up around 450, and was very nimble from what she said. He did haul pulpwood, and they would chop trees down, but then sometimes they couldn't get wagons and horses in there, and he would put clamps and chains on these logs and pull the logs out of the woods by himself. And
Jesus.
just like all of these historic tales of people that happened post slavery in my family would make for a very interesting story. I'm not the only one. Like my older brother was first team All Southwest Conference football player, All American. Played at Texas A&M on the wrecking crew defense. He was the nose tackle and two technique that played on that team. And you have all these guys: Quinn Coriat, Aaron Wallace, Minifield, Kevin Smith, that played long careers in the NFL. And them guys will tell you Pat was the toughest, meanest dude they ever met. And
wow.
I've run into him and they're like, man, I don't know how you lived in that house. Your brother.
Is this the one that you said was like the real live Debo?
He was Debo, man. I'm dead serious. Like when he came around, people started acting different because he liked the fight. You know how he would have been a great MMA fighter because he liked he would be like, You want to slap box? And they're like, no, nobody wants to slap box with you because you're gonna get mad, and then it's gonna be a real fight. Yeah, he was crazy.
But see, this brings me to the thing that, like, I'm the peace and love guy.
Me too.
Music, right? But then people are like, wait a minute, you're into MMA? And my mom is the one that got me into it. But she worked labor and delivery and emergency room. So she had a high tolerance for blood and everything. But the thing that fascinated me about it, I was like, why? I believe, because I'm a spiritual person, I believe some people are made to do something. Like, it's obvious I'm made to play music.
You're David. That's who you are. You're David. In the Bible, David was a warrior from birth.
They knew when he was 2
to kill and fight. And David, as much as he loved the world, David did not go inside the church. He preached from the outside, and he said, "I'm better off with a sword outside the church defending it than being sitting comfortably inside it." And that's exactly how I feel. I would rather be outside listening to the sermon through the wall, waiting on somebody to act up. Because you think about it, last year and the year before, both there were incidents where a shooter came in and shot up churches.
Yep.
Not my church.
They see you standing out there. It's like, what's his name? But remember in Blazing Saddles, they said Mongo, they said, "Oh, don't shoot him. You'll just make him mad."
Yeah.
But that speaks to that thing, to what kept me interested in MMA. And then when I got past and I apologize forever for my ignorance, which is all that was, that I ever called wrestling fake, because I didn't know the level of injuries that was going on. But I include
go to a wrestling school and just try it out. I tell anybody.
Yeah. Oh,
go try it.
Go take one of those backdrops. One. And I know the guys, like I hang out with them. I had dinner with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Brutus Beefcake, and watching them get up from the table, they had a harder time than my mom, who's in assisted living down here at 87. And I was like, oh man, Oteil, then of course, Kurt Angle broke his neck 5 times. Mick Foley's ear got ripped off. I mean, that the You can't fake gravity, like JR said, right?
No, once you're above head and I throw you, gravity is going to take a hold and you're going to go straight back to the earth.
Yes.
And you have to absorb that punishment. And not even the hits or the falls, absorbing other people's energy is I mean, just it's like a car wreck every day. Like every day it's like you got a car wreck. Somebody come off the ropes and they run into you. The reason my back is messed up now is because I caught people. And when I say I caught people, there was a guy named Mark Jindrak. Mark Jindrak was 6'5", 6'6", like 275 pounds.
Jeez.
He jumped off the top rope and I caught him in the ring and didn't take a step. And I caught Brock Lesnar. I've caught guys that were, 280 pounds on a regular.
Yeah.
Like that was a part of being the strongest man in the world. You Google Mark Henry picking up the Big Show.
Yeah,
like
I've seen
Paul
that.
White was 475 pounds, and I picked him up and I walked with him about 10 feet, and I picked him up over my head and slammed him through a table. Now you go and look at that and say, "Oh, that's fake."
Yeah, exactly. Those injuries, and that brings me back to like my fascination with why people do it. It convinces me of a creator, because you wouldn't do that unless you were born with the even build to take it, because some people can't take that kind of punishment physically, but also then just the way you're wired. Like I think about MMA fighters going, "Oh, honey, I'm going to work," and then they go get kicked in the head and come back with a black eye and a broken nose. "Honey, I'm home." She puts dinner on, and he's sitting in there. I'm like, who does that unless they have to? And a lot of careers, like music, which is also why I think the interviews got me into wrestling, because there's so much similarities between the life on the road, temptations of the road and the double life, the drugs, the whatever. Like you have to be able to survive all that too.
Yeah.
Like
when you're an extremist, you take everything to the M. And, I found that with musicians, I find it with artists, I find it with actors, professional wrestlers, football players, basketball, golf, Marvelous Tiddlywinks. Anybody that wants to do something and be the best in the world at it, that's a level of commitment. Just saying that. I want to be number one. How crazy?
It's crazy.
The thought is crazy, because you know what you got to put yourself through, and you know what you got to sacrifice. Kingfish, the blues singer, Christopher Kingfish.
Yeah.
He's excellent.
Yeah,
he won a Grammy last year. We were hanging out, and he was playing. And I was like, "Man, you don't get tired?" He said, "Man, if I don't play, I think." If I don't play, I think. So when he's playing, he's running off instinct. And I tell my wife that all the time. I play video games because I'm a gamer. I play the game so I don't think about the world.
Yeah.
Because I don't even play the game. I do franchising. I do all the math and the structure in the contracts and realizing, this guy's going to be too expensive next year. I got to move him. I got to get something for him. So, you know what? I better, try to keep him safe and limit his minutes and yada, yada, yada. Like, that's what real general managers do.
Yeah.
Because I talk to them. And it's an escape. Some of the guys, they're not working, man. They're having fun.
Yeah.
They're having ball. And Brock Lesnar and Shelton Benjamin and Kurt Angles and all these guys that were high level wrestlers.
Yeah.
Like, man, I used to try them. I'm like, come on, let me see what it feels like. I don't believe that karate can work with me. Come on, let's go. Like, you can't be all there when you do that. And
No.
Brock killed me one time, man. Brock hyperextended my knee. Like, he low level shot to my left knee from like 5-6 feet away. And I just knew that he couldn't get to me. But he still was able to get to me from that distance, and I couldn't believe it. Kurt, I could not hold him. The strongest human walking the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. Technique.
And when he pulled his hips off the ground and turns in the air, all you're gonna find is air. He's gonna be standing in front of you with that look on his face. And Shelton was another one. Like, Shelton, I never seen Brock beat Shelton. Never.
Wow.
Shelton taught Brock. He was his coach at Minnesota.
I didn't know that. See, you always learn something more. I didn't know that.
And for whatever reason, I ended up on all fours. I'm 400 pounds at the time. Shelton was 230, 240. I could not get up. He would chop your arms in the crease of your arms and push your head down. And I finally quit because I was getting a cramp in my neck. He said, man, you got to bridge. You got to do your neck to get your neck strong. And I was like, shit, I thought my neck was strong. Until you do something that's a isolated training philosophy on whatever that body part is, you don't know what those people know, and they can take advantage of your weakness. So, like, fighting is like playing chess. If you want to survive, don't go to the ground. If you want to survive, and somebody can really throw hands like Mike Tyson, you got to take him to the ground.
Yeah.
You know, man, like it's a really, really dangerous thing that requires a lot of training and a lot of exposure. And so is wrestling. Wrestling, there's different styles. There's luchadors, guys that flip and fly. Then you have the grapplers, like guys like you. And then you have the big guys like 6'6", 300 pounds that try to mash you, you know, and then you throw in the dynamic of, okay, these guys got to do this for 20 minutes or more sometimes. And you have to make people feel in wrestling. It's not just physical. You know, you can see a fight, and the only time that you say something is when they're in a choke or they're getting knocked out or choked out. In wrestling, man, it's the struggle.
Yeah.
It's the story. It's the emotion of it. How do I make you feel? And if you watch AEW, you watch MJF and Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
Two of the greatest examples of storytelling meeting action.
Yeah.
MJF make you just want to slap him, man.
It's good.
Like he just, bro.
You know, I can watch him with the sound down. When you can get somebody and the sound is down, that's something, man.
Yeah, he does that to you, and Bryan Danielson the same thing. And Bryan makes you feel pain more than anybody that I watch wrestling today. And I mean, the way he kicks you, the way that he puts people in holes, it's great technique is one of the reasons why, you know, there's wrestling all around the world. And sometimes people, if a trained MMA fighter sees through it, they're like, oh shit, he don't know what he's doing. But Bryan, bro, he know what he trains, he fights, and he wrestles too. So it's pretty cool to see the artistry in pro wrestling.
And that's one of the things that kept me coming back to, is to see that, you know, there's like high level people in other areas. Like in AEW, you have a doctor, Dr. Britt Baker. I mean, you know, you have, or you have a Kurt Angle or you who are Olympians and, have set all these records and, or football players, whatever, wherever they come from. And I was like, okay, so I had to get past the whole that the ending was scripted. And then when I saw interviews also with MMA fighters that I knew, that were like, yeah, I think the wrestling's worse on my body injury wise. I was like,
Have you
man,
it twice?
Huh?
Have you ever watched a movie twice?
Watched a movie twice? Or
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
You know the ending already.
Yeah, exactly.
But you still watch the movie because you enjoyed it. It made you feel a certain way, and you realize, wow, this is something that I dig. That's wrestling. Yeah. Man, I can know what the ending is, but I still got to see how they get there.
Yeah,
I got to see it, and I like listening to the story. I don't have to see it. Blind people, there's a lot of blind people that watch wrestling.
And after giving my daughter her ear things because it's loud, I was like, wow, you really can. You can get all of it without looking.
Yeah. And I've had hundreds of wrestlers go, hey, Mark, did you watch my match? And I go, nah, I didn't watch it, but I could hear what was the reaction. And at some point, whenever y'all went into a hold, it got quiet, and I didn't feel like y'all worked out of that good enough. People go, damn, you're right. And so it's like you got to be able to really understand it to get to that level. But I was talking to Jake Roberts probably about a month ago, and he came on our show, Busted Open, and he was saying exactly the same thing. He's like, man, I can hear the matches. I don't have to watch them no more. And I'm like, damn, Superman.
A lot of the thing that gets me caught up too is because interviews were my entree into the wrestling world, is the stories of the athletes themselves and seeing where they come from. And I'll be watching some documentary, like I was watching one on Beth Phoenix and her whole glamazon, and in high school she wanted to wrestle on the boys team, and they, it wasn't there, and she ended up doing it and winning, and so I'm crying. And my wife walks in and she's like, you're crying at a wrestling documentary? I was like, man, these stories, it's just like musicians. When you know what a person went through to get from where they started and whatever impossibility they were up against, and they made it through, and combined with all these people like you who have excelled incredibly in stuff that we consider legit. But am I wrong? But I thought I saw you said that your WWE Hall of Fame thing is the thing you're most proud of in your life.
Yeah, it is. And man, I cried last week.
Me too.
A documentary that just came out called Superfan on Peacock.
I saw that. I got Peacock just for a documentary.
The dude started talking about his mother dying. Oh man. You start to you become friends with these people. I've known this guy for years. Hated him. And then here I was crying watching the documentary about him.
And you learned the story.
That's wrestling. That's just what it does to you.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. And that's why I kind of want to, a lot of my fans, there's not a lot of overlap between WWE or AEW or professional wrestling and the Grateful Dead, but it is there, but I want to do kind of for our fans that might not be into that world, kind of like a bright side of the ring as opposed to the dark side of the ring.
Right.
What?
To Busted Open.
Huh?
All you got to do is listen to Busted Open every day.
I do. Oh, I follow you guys. And I'm encourage our fans, please go to Busted Open on SiriusXM. I've been with the Allman Brothers Band. and the last version of the Grateful Dead. I've heard all the stories. Dude, the wrestling stories are even more far out than the rock and roll stories. I'm sorry. Haku, or like, just
Bro,
what.
I'm gonna blow your mind. I'm gonna blow your mind. I'm at Sirius XM Studios in New York. I'm walking out of the pantry. Of course, I'm coming from where they got the snacks and drinks. And I walk in the hallway, and it's Gene Simmons. And he goes, "Oh, man, Mark Henry, what's going on, man?" He was like, "Man, I saw you at the WrestleMania a couple of years ago." And I remember when he came to the WrestleMania in Los Angeles.
That's
And
awesome.
I was like, just talking to him like, a normal person. And I remember getting to the studio, and I told Dave LaGreca, I was like, "Wow, man, I just ran into Gene Simmons in the hallway." And he was talking about WrestleMania a couple years ago, and he remembered meeting me. And Dave said, "What? Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah." He walked up and said something to me, and Dave lost his shit, man. Like, Dave is really good friends with oh my God, what's the name that bit the bad head off? Alice
Oh,
Cooper.
Alice Cooper. Yeah. Who I've
And
seen in WWE before. I
he
thought,
loved wrestling. Rick Rubin, like,
Yep.
people in the music, like elite people love wrestling. Man, I see Ice Cube and his son O'Shea when we're in LA.
Snoop. Dude, Snoop threw that people's elbow and what's his name couldn't do it. I was like, oh, that I would be afraid to do that. Like, I'm 59. I wouldn't want to, like,
So Shane McMahon tore his quad,
yeah, he couldn't do them
and Snoop went and did it for him
on the fly.
instantly.
Yes.
Because of all the years of knowing what that looked like, he knew Shane hurt, and he went and did that, bro. Like, that's what wrestling fans like. The fans are part of it. Like, you help make it, and
Absolutely.
Snoop has been in the ring before, so I wasn't worried about him hurting himself or nothing. But I was like, man, I wish he'd have just jumped from the ring. I didn't know he was going to go up to the ropes. I'm like, "Snoop, what are you doing? What are you doing?" Oh, shoot. But like, that is pro wrestling is a beautiful thing, man. It's an art. My son, he want to be a wrestler more than anything in the world, man. If he could not go to college, which is not an option,
I
he would,
figured.
he would, he would go to wrestling school tomorrow.
I hear you.
Just because he loves it. And I'm like, man, go and make a name for yourself. Be somebody before you go into wrestling, so you don't go in at the ground floor. Because
Ah,
in pro wrestling, if you somebody before, they
yeah.
can lean into that.
Yeah.
And like, it's not like MMA, man. MMA, you either got a good left hand, or you got great takedowns, and you got to use them well.
Yeah.
Uh, you being a scholar or a musician on the side does not help you in that ring.
Yeah.
In wrestling, it's the complete opposite. If you can talk, if you can sing, if you can dance, if you can entertain another way, man, it makes you special.
Well, look at Bianca Belair. I mean, you know, and that's something that I want to talk about is mentorship because that's one of the brightest sides of the ring. I'd love seeing the when uh, wrestlers talk about what Dusty Rhodes did for them,
Wow.
and I wouldn't be into this at all if it wasn't for Bianca Belair, who my daughter adores. I got her right here, and so that means if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be into wrestling because you're the one that found her, right? So
Excuse me. Outstanding track athlete at Tennessee.
yes,
And, went into CrossFit because she was just strong. You don't find many sprinters that and hurdlers that can also power lift.
mm,
And she was able to do both. and I was like, wow, that's a lot of work, different skill sets. And then I saw her at one of the Rogue national qualifiers, and she had on a tutu with a giant Mickey Mouse bow. And I was like, what the hell is she? And she was doing all the stuff, all of the events, and she just looked different. And she would look at the crowd and get the crowd fired up. I said, that's wrestling.
Yeah.
And I called her, and well, I sent her a message, and she called me, and we talked for a minute, and I didn't realize that she was 18. So I was like, hey, won't you tell your dad to call me tomorrow or something? It felt kind of weird.
No, I hear you. Got mentorship can't be, you got to do it right.
It's easier when you do it with guys.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, her dad called me the next day, and we spoke, and I said, hey, man, your daughter got a gift, man. She's a born entertainer. I'd like to fly y'all to Orlando. And that's what happened, and the rest is history. But she's not the only one. You know, there's probably a half dozen or more people that I've done that with, and pretty much everybody that I picked became a world champion.
That's gotta feel. I can't imagine how that feels. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them that they don't have all the tools to be world champion. And I'm not a dream smasher or I'm a realist. I'll tell some, hey, you ever thought about production? You ever thought about cameras? You ever thought about lighting techs? You ever thought about being on the support staff? Like if you're not going to make the commitment with your body, or your body just can't hold up to the injury. Samantha Johnson, that's the announcer for.
Oh, she's great.
I saw her on American Idol and reached out to her, and I said, look, you need to wrestle. And she got down there and she said, hey, I probably walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. I don't know how I'm going to wrestle. I said, there's other things. Like, get down there and go through the basics so you know what it is. And then they'll find the stuff for you. She's the lead announcer for the company now.
She's amazing. I was just watching her this morning, actually. I love her story. I saw an interview with her recently too. So tell me a little bit about some of your mentors in wrestling. I remembered seeing you talk about going up to the Hearts in Canada.
Yeah, I kind of got banished because at that time pro wrestling was different. With the territory days, people were cutthroat and stab you in the back. They always say in wrestling, knives to the right. Forks to the right, knives in the back. I kept getting in trouble, so they sent me to Calgary. And Bret Hart, was the one that said, man, just send him to Canada, send him up there with us so he can get some training because he don't know. And it was Bret Hart, man. If it wasn't for Bret Hart, there wouldn't be a Mark Henry wrestling. And then I got to meet his brother Owen and his dad Stu, who he asked me, have you ever been in a fight? And I said, nah, I ain't never been in a fight. I beat up some people before. And he was, that's funny. Come down here to the dungeon. He stretched the shit out of me.
I've heard
everybody else, he beat us up, man, and told us how to fight. That's I never knew that you had to learn how to fight. I thought it was just an instinctual thing, but like the training that you went through, I went through. I did the up down. I ran around their property, which was about 2 miles. We learned how to do locks and holds we studied Judo Gene LaBelle book. We did judo as well as hand-to-hand, military hand-to-hand. So it was a lot of stuff that I went through that wrestlers don't go through. but Bret Hart went through it. Owen Hart went through it, and Owen was a really good wrestler. Like,
Yeah.
Like a Canadian, like he could have went to the Olympics,
Mm.
but pro wrestling was their business.
Yeah.
And people like Bad News Allen, Bad News Brown, like incredible fighters, like Olympic level. Santino Marella.
Yeah.
People talk about Santino, how he's a comedian and he's fun. That dude was the silver medalist in judo in Canada.
Mm. Wow.
Like,
I
I
didn't know
mean,
that.
bro, like pro wrestling has got some dogs in it, and it's just that the people found wrestling and wrestling found them, and that's what happened to me in Canada. I learned how to be a pro wrestler from the Hart family, and when I came back, I was different, and I also had tolerance. I had zero tolerance and would fight in a minute.
Yeah.
Mainly because of my upbringing. I have Debo that lived in my house. So, it was some of that rubs off.
Yeah.
But when I got to Canada, they were like, look, man, you can't fight everybody. Like, this is the way you handle this in the locker room. This is the way you handle people that are loud and rambunctious. He said, you get them by themselves when it's quiet and you tell them, hey, man, I don't too much like all of the fussing and fighting. But like the next time that me and you quiet and by ourselves and nobody's around to pull me off you, I'm going to give you the business. And then it calms down the antagonizing and the bullying. We're in a world now where we allow bullying.
Oh,
they allow the law to protect you from getting your ass beat. And there's a lot of people that are bullying people, and they bully them at work. They bully them at church. They bully them wherever they are. They bully, and they're allowed to because there's no checks and balances. Yeah. But if it was like it was in the 70s, in the 80s, people would be doing a lot less of all of this foolishness. But I got my own, sick, demented thoughts on how to fix everything, but this ain't.
Me too. So I feel you. Well, it's something I appreciate, and that's part of this whole like bright side of the ring angle that I want to hit. We're very fortunate at the show we were playing to have John Amos come out.
Oh my God!
The dad on Good Time. Yeah. So, and he's like into the Grateful Dead, like he's a really big music head. And he was just front row, like riding the rails, singing along. And I was just like, I felt like somebody gave me a hit of acid, and he hung out with us till 2:30 in the morning. And it was so great to talk to him because he is that guy that was on Good Times. And interestingly enough, he lost that gig over his anger management because the beefs that he had with the writers, and he said this in interviews, where he was like, well, let's take it outside if you don't see things the right way, And they were like, hey, we're these little writers, comedy writers. But it's so cool to like get to know him and see he is that guy. He's that upright black man that's fair, very intimidating, but really gentle and will not take any stuff, like.
Yeah, I've talked to him. I've been on a show. There's a show called The Green Room, a debate show with Avi Fine, and I'll send you the information that he was on, and he was a true thespian. Like he was very well trained, highly trained actor, and they wanted to do demeaning ghetto ridiculousness with him, and he was not for it. Mm-hmm. He was like, no, I'm not doing that. And there were other people that were on that show that was high level actors and actresses that they felt like it was beneath them to do that. And I'm glad that he had pride, because that is one of the things that I feel like we all need. You talk about mentorship, but you also want to be represented properly as a
Yes.
man. And today, in today's world, the being a black man and having respect for yourself and respect for the people around you, and people won't see your color. They just will see the
Yeah.
true man come out of you. And John Amos, he just exemplified that.
And you give me that exact same feeling. And God bless him for doing it, because he knew, he was like, I'm in a unique position. He was Black America's dad long before Cosby was.
Yeah,
Cosby was famous, more famous, but he wasn't in that sitcom, like every night television dad
yeah,
role. And he knew that, look, if I'm in this spot, it has to be portrayed this way or else. And he said later, like, Norman, I'm great with him, and he was a trailblazer, and they ended up working together, but I had to learn to manage my anger, which is why I thought about it, because, we all have our anger stuff, but you deal with it. You show us how to be the right kind of man. So, and actually, when I saw Stone Cold first talking about you, that's what he said. That's one of the things he said. He said, sitting across from him doing the interview, he felt not your physical power, which is, I'm sure he felt that too, but your power as a human, your conviction. So that's such a great thing to pass on when you're mentoring. you know do
yes,
you
sir.
feel
Truly believe, and I'm truly, I mean every ounce of what I'm going to say to you. I am willing to die for what I believe in to be right, and I know that I'm not always right,
yeah
but I can be taught. And a lot of people, when they get to a certain status, they think they can't learn no more.
yeah
That's where I have a problem.
me too.
Like, man, you got to be able to listen and help people out. Like, I'm at AEW and I'm around a lot of young people, and there are things that I know for a fact, but I let them finish. Go ahead, finish it. Say what you're saying, and then I'm going to hit you with this and see what you think about this. And sometimes it's like, well, that'll work for somebody else that's bigger than me, but for me, that might not work for me. And I go, you know what? You're right. How about we come up with something new, or let's do something that is more beneficial to you having success rather than you doing something you saw. Create it.
Yeah.
You got to bring the creativity out of people in the arts. And a lot of times people think that they just have to do what they've always seen. Man, you can carve your own path. You just have to be able to really figure it out and put some thought into it.
Are there some other people that you see doing it kind of like you, like what Dusty did? And they call them Dusty's kids. You know, who are some of the other people out there that are really? I see Booker T. I follow him on,
Yeah.
and he's definitely doing
Booker
it.
T is an incredible coach and teacher. Jay Lethal at
Oh, I
AEW.
love him.
He is a incredible teacher. You hear me?
I love him, man.
Al Snow down at Ohio Valley is an incredible coach and teacher. Gangrel,
He's here.
yeah, down there in Florida is amazing. Man, like there's a few. Bully Ray.
Bully
Bully
Ray.
has got a school up in New Jersey. Uh,
Nice.
Man, like there's a bunch of people that they provoke you to think, not just move your body. Devon, his wrestling brother, the Dudley Boys, they both coach,
That's
and
pretty.
you can just see the greatness, based off of what they've done. Rakishi and
Oh, yeah.
his school out in California. I mean, there's a few, man. We'll be here all day.
Yeah.
Name all of the schools that I feel like are above board.
Yes.
Like you get up to Minnesota and Ken Anderson like, Mr. Kennedy, like he grade school, teach the fundamentals. Like that's the thing I like is whenever we go to certain territories that we bring in extra talent. And when the extra talent comes and they're already trained and you don't have to Bret Hart's the kids up in Canada.
Dude, Canada, I'm sure it got it going on.
It's still good. It's still good, Calgary. Like so, man, the wrestling is gonna be good. And Paige, her brother is teaching in London, and we've seen like drastic improvement in the world of pro wrestling in the UK.
Wow, cool.
The UK always had good wrestling, but it was not as entertaining. It was more really hardcore grappling and more chain wrestling. Now in UK, man, wrestling is just as good over there as it is over here.
Yeah, you guys smashed it over there. Oh man,
80,000 people.
Dude, I was hearing all the naysayers, just like with Ngannou. I was like, you gotta wait and see, man. You gotta wait and see because I know the talent that's and oh man, it had to feel good a little bit to be like, what you gotta say now, right?
Yeah, it is. And I know Tony Khan, when he got by himself and he sat there and there wasn't nobody around, I know he looked in the mirror and said, man, I did it. I did it.
Yeah.
I know he did because I would have. Like, hey, man, you got to pat yourself on the back when you do good work. And you know what? Every chance I get, if it's somebody that I feel like they deserve it, I make sure that I give it to them. Like, good job. It's more valuable than money to me.
It is. It really is. Especially when you have the naysayers. I mean, look, we're in the business of long shots. That's why I tell my wife and my kids, I'm like, this is all about long shot. The fact that we're even here, like people don't realize till they try to have a baby. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. And when it's not, you realize the incessant chain of things that has to go right for you to be born in any one little thing. So we're talking about long shots all the time.
Trillions.
Yeah.
Trillions to one on whether or not you're a living, breathing being.
Healthy,
living, breathing being on this planet. Come on, man. Like, there's a God, bro.
That's what I think. I'm like, I know we have a lot of, some people grow up, like my podcast partner, he's not here right now because his special comes out tomorrow. So he's got to do a lot of things. I'm doing this one. So, but he grew up in a really horrible environment as far as religion is concerned, as my dad did and my mom. My mom never ditched God, but she ditched the Catholic Church. My dad ditched the whole thing, said it's all BS, blah, blah, blah. And then when I hit bottom, I just reached out to God. I was like, I don't know who's right about you and who's wrong, but I need help. And I literally heard a voice say, we're here for you. And I was like, what? And so I was so desperate. I just asked them questions. And they told me to do some things and my life turned around. So then I was like, okay, I still don't know who's right and who's wrong, but I know this whole thing isn't wrong. And what happened to me, and it also happened to my mom. It also happened to my two younger sisters at different times. So I just have to accept. Now we could call it whatever. I try to call it the creator because I don't want, all these words have so much baggage. They offend people and we get hung up on semantics.
Yeah. Semantics and like people choosing makes God trivial. Like you can't say God is black, God is white. You cannot say God is Catholic, God is Jewish, God is Christian. Like God is God.
Beyond everything.
Above all things. You could call him Yahweh, you could call him Buddha, Jesus. God is God. All the prophets that he put on this planet, thank God for them. Literally. I thank God. every one of the prophets, everybody that wrote a book in the Bible for thousands and thousands of years. They protected all of these texts, but it was done by man. I can't rely on man. I gotta believe in Almighty God, and that is every day I'm going to hang my hat on that. And he said, you believe in Jesus, and I believe in Jesus, and Muhammad, and Buddha. You name one of the elite prophets, and I will read what they wrote, and I will come to my own conclusion on what I feel like I should believe in. But it's going to be by my faith and by my conviction, yes, not because somebody told me to.
Exactly. That's how
it happened when you were alone. And, you know, the Bible always talks about going into a closet and pray. And beneath the rock, and you will find me. What's beneath the rock?
All
Nothing.
Alone. Yeah, exactly.
Ain't no people under the rock. I ain't got to believe none of them people. You know what I'm saying? Don't make me preach now.
No, I mean, look, this is what my show is like. It masquerades as a music podcast, but no matter what I have, whether we have wrestlers on, or we're talking music, or we're talking visionary, or comedians, it all gets back to the spiritual for me, because, you know, why does it matter?
Yeah.
Why do we do that? You can't, science is not enough to just explain all that. My heart needs to know why, you know, and what these things that matter so much can't be measured by science. Love cannot be proven to exist. Your actual consciousness cannot be measured by science. We can't prove that your consciousness exists, but does it? I mean, you know, like,
yeah, it's amazing, man. I'm on the same page with you, man. I can't wait to get your information introduced to a few people. There's some people that I think that you should have on your show as well.
Please.
There's a couple of shows I think you should go on.
Please.
And John is gonna, you know, make sure that you get my information.
Bless you. I appreciate it.
I can stay on, but I gotta.
No, I know you gotta
get out of here. But I really appreciated my time with you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it so much. And when you have a break sometime down the road, I'd love to get you back, because I got to ask you about Ron Simmons. It's a few
grown man.
Grown man. I got you too now. I don't want to, I got to represent. I got you too.
Whole nation.
Thank you so much, Mark. What a honor and a pleasure. I really appreciate it, man. Bless you, brother.
God bless you, man. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.